Hello, everybody, and welcome to the weird little podcast I decided to do today. This is T.O.C, and basically, I wanted to do this because I've been going on TikTok lately, and I've been seeing a lot of videos from people who are basically trying to debunk the evolution theory. Well, the theory of evolution. And I thought I'd do a little mini podcast because it's been a while since I've done a mini podcast, or any podcast for that matter. So I thought I'd give it a go, see how we do. So I just basically wanted to just come up here and just talk about evolution as a whole and my take on it and what my understanding of it is. Because I'm going to be honest, I actually believe that evolution is kind of the way that makes a lot of sense. Sorry for all of those who expected me to come up here and speak about creationist theory. However, it kind of makes a lot of sense. Now, one of the misconceptions I get from a lot of people who are anti-evolution, talk about creationism and talk about their religion and so on. They say that humans evolved from apes. Okay? Then why are there still apes today? Now, this is a huge misconception that happens a lot with people who don't understand the actual theory of evolution itself. So they end up spouting out these types of things, which make a lot of evolutionists people laugh. But then at the end of the day, it's because they don't understand, and they've probably not done a lot of research into what the actual evolutionary theory is. Evolution doesn't say we evolved from apes, and those apes just stuck around, and we just cracked on. No. We evolved from a common ancestor to other apes. So say, for example, we say that we have a lot of... Humans have a lot of similarities to, say, chimpanzees. That's because we evolved from a common ancestor as the chimpanzee did. I'm not too sure who that common ancestor was, but the evolutionary theory says we evolved from that common ancestor. And what that means is we then spouted off to do other things. And then there's the out of Africa theory. And out of Africa, again, there's a lot of evidence to prove it, because what evolution does do is it works itself on empirical evidence. Evolution never says it knows exactly what happened. It's saying this is a theory, but we are basing it on fact, and then they present their theory, and they give evidence to present that. So then it kind of makes a lot of sense. And evolution obviously doesn't say the world is 10,000 years old, like a creationist would, because they have carbon dating, which dates back over 20, 30, 40,000 years ago. Some date back even millions of years ago. So how could they possibly say the world's only 10,000 years when they have carbon dating that goes back millions of years? Doesn't make any sense. So then they talk about the world being billions of years old, because as is the universe. So what they then go into is, because you can look at evolution in every different aspect of human lives. Now, if you look at my skin colour, you look at how my features are, that's because my ancestors derived from the Indian subcontinent. Now, why do they look like that? Again, now that's obviously come over years. There's been transmigrations. There's been, crossbreeding, if that's the right way to say it. But what that does is why do Europeans look like Europeans? Because when the Africans travelled outside of Africa, they entered into Europe. And now what does Europe have? It has a different climate to Africa. It has different types of oxygen to Africa. Now, when we say different types of oxygen, it's because that the air is different. There's a lot more vegetation there. It's not as hot in Europe. So then over time, the humans who lived in Europe started to adapt to the European climate. It's the same with people who went to places that were like China or Japan, or even like India, for example, and the Indian subcontinent, Central Asia as well. Those people who transitioned and went over there, migrated there, over years, that's how we come to have different races, because people adapted to their environment. Now you see people in Africa, they are probably looking the same as people did back then because they were perfectly suited to their environment. The Africans who didn't leave, they were perfectly suited to their environment. They don't need to change. Whereas those who left, the body had to change, and then over time, as it goes on and on and on, the body changes and evolution kicks in, and then it adapts to its environment. And that's what evolution is all about. And then it's obviously like, then people say, oh, why are there people in Australia? Why are there people there? Blah, 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 out of Africa. It's because like the tectonic plates, things moved around. It's how it fucking happens. And then also people forget there was once an ice age. The ice age meant that people could transition and migrate from one place to the other. Like during the ice age, North America was actually connected to many parts of Europe. So people would walk from one side to the other. I don't know if that's entirely true, but that's the theory. And then the theory, again, it has empirical evidence of people doing that. And that's where it comes down to on that. So I just drinking some Coke there. So that's where evolution literally looks into there. And then the thing is that where that debunks the whole idea of creationism is that the idea of creationism is that we were, and religion in general, says that we all came from God. We were born from, we came from in God's image, whatever God's image was. Wouldn't we all then be the same? Wouldn't we all then look the same, have the same race, have the same look? Why would God create different races? Why would he create different races of humans? It doesn't make a lot of sense in there. Whereas evolution kind of answers that. It says, well, this is the reason why this is here. This is the reason why these people look like here. This is the reason why these people look like that. Now, of course, evolution was used in horrific ways. There used to be the policy of eugenics, which was used a lot by obviously social Darwinism. Social Darwinists would use eugenics, and what they would do is they would because there was a guy called Friedrich Nietzsche who explained this. Friedrich Nietzsche wasn't the racist himself. He was like explaining like social Darwinism because he was a believer in he was a believer in Darwin's theory. However, people like, say, fascists and Nazis and so on, like Hitler used social Darwinism to explain why the master race is there. And then other people, like the British Empire, for example, is heavily criticised for it now. But it was heavily promoted eugenics during its rule to justify why they should rule over Africans, rule over Indians, rule over Aborigines. They used eugenics to explain that the white English person should rule over the world. And this is when you say, like people exploit religion. People exploited evolution in that sense. And these were people who weren't exactly scientists. They were, a lot of the rulers there would obviously they used science to justify their belief. And that's where people have exploited evolution, just like the way that people have exploited religion. And that's where I think people need to gain an understanding of this and what evolution actually discusses. Now, people ask me, well, I've been believing in evolution ever since I heard of it because it made a lot of sense. And people say, I'm not a monkey. No, you're not a monkey. But your ancestors probably were. And they don't like to believe that because what I think the issue with evolution that people find is it makes out you're not special. Because believing in religion, believing in creationism, believing in whatever, that kind of makes you seem special. It means that you were chosen to be on this earth. Some people believe in predetermination. Some people believe in these types of things. However, evolution says you're not special. You're just part of a system. And evolution doesn't say you have to get to humans. Humans are the ultimate form. Evolution is an ongoing process. And you can even see evolution in human beings. Over 100 years ago, people were much shorter. It's the average height of human beings when Alexander the Great was around 5'2", 5'2", and when Alexander the Great invaded India, the king of India, well, the king that he fought in India, there was many kings in India at that point, but the king he fought was King Porus, who was 6'2" or 6'3", and he was considered a giant. Now 6'2", 6'3", you see a lot of people that height, but back then that was very rare. It's like today people live longer. Why? Because we have medical advances. We are now adapting to the environment. And now adapting to the environment means we now live longer. We now grow taller. We are stronger as a race. Obviously, there's still some countries which have struggled, but in the Western world, especially, our environment has helped us live longer. And that's another thing there. Then there's people say, well, why are there different species of human? Why don't we see Neanderthals anymore? Why don't we see Homo erectus? Oi, oi, darling. Why don't we see them anymore? It comes down to competition. Evolution is very much about competition. It says that there was a competition for resources. Humans managed to think outside the box. Well, Homo sapiens, I should say. They thought outside the box, whereas Neanderthals couldn't. And we managed to beat them for resources. There may have been other aspects as well, like there's obviously crossbreeding and so on, but overall we beat them for resources because evolution always says about competition is key. And that's why certain species outlive others, because of competition. And you see it in other species as well. You know, like tigers have evolved from like, you can't say that tigers, lions, other feline animals didn't derive from a similar ancestor. Of course they did, because you can see it. You can see that they did. Why do we have 4 fingers and a thumb on one hand and 4 fingers and a thumb on another hand? Why do primates have the same? It's because we derived from a common ancestor to them. We didn't come from them. We derived and evolved from a common ancestor. And that's what evolution states. And also, evolution has actually been proven in certain ancient religions. Hinduism, now, my knowledge used to be quite strong. I don't remember a lot of it now, but the incarnations of Vishnu back in the day. At one point, he was a crustacean. At one point, he was a small mammal. At one point, I think he was a fish. So this is actually depicting, in a spiritual sense, and they're looking at it more on a spiritual way, not on more of a empirical evidence way or a scientific way. They're looking at it more of a spiritual way. But in many ways, they are actually already stating that there was ancient religions, a lot of them did look at evolution as a possible theory. And evolution, but in many ways, yes, evolution is a theory, but it's a theory that bases itself on empirical evidence. And it actually bases itself on what actual factual things are out there. Because in many ways, religion is also a theory. Because religion looks at saying that, oh, God created this, God created that. There's no real evidence for it, but it's a theory of what happened. And what religion was used as a way to explain certain things that human beings did not have the technology or the knowledge at those times to actually explain. So you'd build up theories around it. And humans have always theorized things for millennia. We have theorized everything. Like, where does the moon come from? Oh, it's on the back of an elephant. We know that's not true now. We know those types of theories have come to not be true because we have evidence to prove against it. But that's where, and then there's the question, like, can you believe in God and believe in evolution? Of course you can. Of course you can. You can believe that God created all of this. What evolution does do is it doesn't discount the idea of there's a God, because maybe a God did create all this, and then maybe God did set the plans in motion and then just let nature take its course. Maybe God did do that. But in a way, it does kind of discount the idea of a religion, because and this is where I sometimes get a bit about when it comes to religion and evolution. I get my conflict going. Because evolution says that we are evolved to be omnivores. We are evolved to be able to eat and eat meat and eat vegetables. We are, then it makes it say that, we are different races, but we all come from the same area anyway. So what's the point in believing in different things? Because we all really come from the same thing. So then there's things like religion, for example, doesn't really make a lot of sense now, because what religion says is it's saying that we come from a spiritual being, but we believe in him in this way. You have to believe it this way, not that way. But that doesn't make sense now, because we all came from the same one anyways. A religion says, oh, you can't drink, you can't eat this, you can't have that, you can't do this. But that doesn't make any sense, because I've been evolved to be able to do that. And we all come from the same being anyways. So why does it matter? So that's where, I'm not going to go into too much about religion on there, even though I've been going on about religion quite a lot here. But that's where I kind of have that inner conflict there, when it comes to religion and when it comes to evolution. Because I do believe that evolution can prove that there's a God. Evolution doesn't say there's no God, even though a lot of people who are scientists in the scientific world about evolution will most likely be atheist. But it doesn't prove that there's no God. But it does kind of discount the idea of religion. Because let's face it, when it comes to religion, you get people who believe in God and people who don't. And people who believe in God, religion is just their way of translating their belief in God. So if you're Muslim, or if you're Christian, or if you're Hindu, or if you're Sikh, if you're Jewish, if you're Buddhist, or whatever, that religion you decide to choose is your way of translating your belief in God. And not having a religion is actually quite freeing because you don't have to bother with any of that. You could just say, well, if I believe in God, that's it. God created this. God probably just wants me to be a good person, wants me to... Because all religions really come down to the same thing. They ask the same questions like, who are we? Where do we come from? And what happens to us when we die? That's literally it. All religions ask that same question. So why is it all of them ask that same question? Because they all want to theorize, where did we come from? What created the world? What happens to us when we die? Then there's theories that you go to heaven. If you're a good person, you go to hell. If you're a bad person, there's the theory of reincarnation. There's no evidence for reincarnation. There's no evidence for heaven or hell, but that's what we want to theorize. Evolution kind of just says, well, that we're more part of nature rather than part of a spiritual world. So really, we'll go the same way as a human dying will go the same way as, say, an antelope. An antelope dies, goes into the ground, done. Same with humans, which I know is very difficult for a lot of people to really comprehend and get their heads around. But that's what evolution says. That's what evolution states. And I think that's where people get the wrong end of the stick on it. But like I said, but this is just a quick podcast on it. I will, by all means, I'll be looking to get some guests on to talk about this even further. And if you guys want to hear more about this topic, or see me do more serious stuff. I don't really do serious shit on this channel. I thought I'd do something serious, and I hope you liked it. So yeah, I'll be doing more topics like this in the future. But that is my take on the whole evolution and creationism theory. It's all because I've been seeing a lot of videos on TikTok where people are saying, oh, how does this happen? What is this? It doesn't make any sense. It's very easily explained. You just got to open yourself to understand it. That's all I say. Like, even if you're believing in evolution, but you don't believe in religion, still open yourself up to learn about what religion is. Understand what it is. If you're against something, the first thing you knew, excuse me, if you are against something, the first thing you should do is learn what that thing is. People used to be against communism. Well, people still are against communism. But a lot of people didn't know what communism was. They just knew they had to be against it. Go and learn about communism and understand what it is you're against. People who are against Nazism or fascism, go learn what fascism is so you know what it is you're against. It's the same concept here. If you're a person who is an atheist and a strong advocate for evolution, go learn about religion so you understand what it is you're against. And it's the same the other way around. If you're religious, go learn about evolution. I mean, I shouldn't have to tell you this. This all makes fucking sense. This makes sense. If you're going to be against something, actually know what it is you're against. Same with vegans. Now, vegans, I'm not going to get into vegans. I have a friend who's a vegan, and they say we shouldn't have to eat animals. Well, you know what? If a tiger was here, he wouldn't think twice about eating me. So, fuck him. I'll eat him first. There you go. But anyway, I'm not going to get into veganism now. But anyways, and also, again, veganism. Human beings have evolved to be able to make the choice whether they want to do it or not. That's why we are, as many vegans don't like to hear, that's why we are the top species, because we are the most intelligent species. We're physically not the strongest. A gorilla would kick the shit out of us. If a grizzly bear walked in here now, he would fuck me up. He would beat the crap out of me. But, as a human being, I'm quite smart, so I'd probably, first, run away, or two, get a gun. That's what we would do. And obviously humans did too much of that. And that's why a lot of their populations are struggling. Maybe humans went a bit too much on it. But anyway, that's not even a discussion for another time. But yeah, so that's basically what my quick little take on the whole evolution theory is. Go learn about it. If you don't agree with me, fine. If you do agree with me, hey. But learn about it, understand it. But that's me. Anyway, this has been Tam and Shelly for T.O.C. Take care, everyone. Bye!